Y'all, stop letting people's outside opinions affect you. You can't control other people. You cannot control other people. You can influence other people, but you can't make nobody do nothing, right? And let me also just say, for all these people to be running around here talking about, well, why did you pick him and why did you pick her? Yeah, them is probably the people you should be avoiding. I'ma just say that. Like, if they a why did you pick type of person, they are most likely one of them people that won't let you, that won't recognize that you've changed, that you've matured, that you're doing better, right? Because the things that we do in our past is not things that we continue to do when we learn from them, right? So y'all know I'm in my 40s. The things I did in my 20s, I'm not doing in my 40s. The things that I picked in my 40s, in my 20s, I'm not picking in my 40s, right? So, like, for instance, in your 20s, you lack experience of life. You think you know, right? Because we all thought we knew something at 20. We think we know, but we don't really know enough to make a sound decision in our 20s. We think we know. We know how to make a decision based off of what we know at that time, right? But you don't know enough to realize what that's going to grow into. And that's what we need to understand now, y'all. We think we know, right? And for all these, why did you pick him or why did you pick her or you picked that baby daddy, all of that stuff. Y'all, if y'all see, the world is going crazy. The world's influence is causing mental health, y'all. The world's influence, okay? The society, what society says, has people becoming more insecure, more low self-esteem. They're watching all this stuff on Facebook. They're watching all these reality shows, and they're making it up in their mind. Well, ain't nobody gonna treat me like that. Ain't nobody gonna do me like that. I wish somebody would play with me, right? You got more and more people killing their spouses. You got more and more people killing their kids. Like, society is going crazy, y'all. That is growing. So when you meet somebody in the beginning, they probably didn't have that type of anger or that type of low self-esteem or, whatever is fueling that, right? They probably didn't have that in them, and they let it grow. And when you see it grow, then you got away from them, right? That's what's happened a lot of times. You got away from them, and then you had to deal with the craziness, or then you had to deal with the deadbeat part of it, or when you met them, they wasn't a deadbeat, and then all of a sudden their depression grew, or whatever it was that fueled that grew, and they became a different person. So for somebody to say, well, why did you pick them? And don't get me wrong, ladies and fellas, because there is instances where we know and we see some of the warning signs, right? And we think, oh, it's just a little this, it's just a little that. I can handle it. I can deal with that. I can help them change that. All they need is this, or all they need is that. And y'all, I am guilty of this, right? So when I see somebody going through depression, right, I tend to feel like, oh, okay, well, I'll just teach them the techniques that I learned, and that'll pull them out of depression, and then they'll be good, right? They'll be the best person. No. Y'all, the techniques that I use to pull myself out of depression was something that consistently has to be done. A lot of people are not consistent in their own self-care. They're not consistent in doing what they need to do to break all these spells that. So when somebody says, well, why did you pick them? I didn't pick them. So again, stop listening to all these people talking about why did you pick him and why did you pick her. Listen, nobody comes up to you and says, hey, if you don't do what I say, I'm going to eventually take you out. Or I'm a child abuser. Or I touch on kids. Nobody introduces themselves like that. Nobody introduces themselves like that. That's not something you're going to know about somebody right away. Now, if you pay attention, they might show you signs, right? They might show you signs, but sometimes our flesh, right? Because that's what we're feeding. Sometimes we are so consumed in what we want, our desires, that we tend to overlook or not see those warning signs, right? And then after you go through the experience of it, unfortunately, the experience taught you, oh, these are the warning signs to look for. This is why I'm no longer with that person. When people end up in abusive relationships, that dude didn't walk up, or that female didn't walk up and say, hey, I'm abusive, I'm gonna beat you up, but I want you to be with me. That's not how that relationship started, y'all. And the weaker the person's mind is, the longer they're probably gonna be in that abusive relationship. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but there's people who have a stronger thought process, and